ultimately, I think education is behind the curve when it comes to utilizing technology,
Yeah.
data, especially. I think there's lots of data collected, and there's lots of data where people can go, can you give me a report on how many children there are in my class, as an example? But,
Absolutely.
in actual proper insight, proper, trends, and using sort of machine learning or AI or whatever you want to class it as, but to try and get to that point where you're utilizing that data far better, like
Mhm.
every other industry does, fintech does, retail does all the time.
Yeah.
Where do you think, do you think that's something that you're helping to address? Do you think it's something that needs to be, do you think other companies need to address it? Or do you think schools and educators need to address it by, you know, sort of expecting more from their suppliers? What do you?
Schools are have such an incredible challenge at the moment, more so than ever before. So although everyone, it's the first method of thought to think it's up to the school to facilitate this, and you find that more schools, mainly academy trusted, are starting to bring in, data analyst experts and those that help manage and structure MAS systems to get information, making it more data driven, which I commend them for. But by and large, we cannot really expect the public sector to put these systems in place until they can partner with companies that specialize in formalities of technology and data science. So again, because those are two areas that us as a company, we specialize in, that's what we want to support. We want to support in terms of how we can drive the collection, process, and analysis of data so that we can help improve the curriculum management and the pastoral care of young people in education. But also, us as a company and me as an individual, I was always brought up and raised to think collaboratively and to know that, no man is an island. We can't expect us to be the only company or the only enterprise to tackle a problem, especially if the problem is bigger than the mission itself. You need to go and find help. You need to form a coalition. So we actually are in talks with a number of other companies within EdTech that we would look to form this coalition of essentially bringing our technologies together to take a look at how we can address the quintessential needs of education management and performance management in and outside the classroom, and therefore together, without us having to formulate, 17 different types of technologies. If we can work with 17 other companies that have their own individual technologies that can all work together in synergy, then that's one hell of a system that can work. But there's one thing that connects it all, and this is where we fall, we're in the center of this coalition, is about the information, how to manage it and how to model it. So I think that is the approach. That's the approach that we've been proposing to various individuals. This is our approach for national reform. So we've had conversations with André of how can we provide a solution that can change the demographic of send and open supervision across the country. And what is the way of doing it? They know technology. People have an idea of technology doing it, but they don't know how, because they see things based on the structured format of what it is, rather than let's break the structure and go outside the box and do it that way. I've been born to that. That's the reasons why I've had such a colorful experience in education, employment, and training, because I don't want to draw in the lines. I want to go outside them and see where it goes. So I think that to me is the best way of doing that, and that's something that we will be working towards as we evolve the solution to something a bit more comprehensive.
Yeah, that's interesting. As a sort of by conversation or alignment, I also sort of do. I sort of teach product managers, so I do product management training, and actually, you're absolutely right. The number of people who are able to look outside of a box and sort of go, actually, what could the future look like? It's actually smaller than you think. People like to be comforted by the technology they know. They like to be comforted by the processes that actually are there already to a large degree. They may try and adapt them, and like you see with a lot of tech, it's not actually new, it's not innovative. It's basically taking a problem that's already there, looking at the way it's being solved, and actually just adapting it.
Absolutely.
And that's what people do, which is fine, and people make loads of money from doing that. But real innovation, true innovation, is actually really hard.
We need mad scientists. That's what they call me in FullSpektrum. They call me the mad scientist. I am the only person that has the madness and the propensity to actually come up, oh, what if we did this? And it may sound really strange at first, but when we look down the surface, but actually, you know what? There's actually quite brilliant. And for me, it's nothing. It's like when I started having conversations with people within Send about FullSpektrum, about what we want to do, and people say, and parents as well, like, oh, this is amazing. This is a really good idea. I can't believe you could create this. And I sat down, and said to them, that's the problem. The fact that you think this is a fantastic, groundbreaking idea, so on and so forth, is the problem. Because all I'm doing is taking other mechanisms that I use in other disciplines and bring it to education, extracting more value from it. You know, the key thing is that I'm mad enough, but I'm passionate enough to take on that challenge, because it's needed. We cannot allow a generation of children to fail and to become irrelevant to the progression of society. You know, but I guess for us, we have to always have these conversations. We need this type of roundtable talks to really start structuring alternative thought. This is the quintessential reason, the quintessential definition of neurodiversity. There are so many different paradigms to approach a problem and to solve the problem. Now let's have a conversation of all those different tributaries to solve the problem, and then if there are routes to synergize them, let's do it. Because if we want it to work, then we have to make it work.
Go on, look at the art of the possible. That's what that's what it's about.
Absolutely.
Sure. I'm gonna have to call you from now on the mad scientist, by the way. No.
Yeah, that's fine. You can call me the mad scientist, the wizard of all technology. I've had different names during my lifetime, which I embrace them all.
Cool. I tell you what, it's been excellent talking to you. I suppose for one of the last sort of questions I've got for you really is, where do you see yourself going then? So where do you see, do you still see yourself with for FullSpektrum and for the next, you obviously outlined a number of phases. So for the next few years, or have you got some other plans, or you've got some more companies you think about building up?
There are, so I'm going to give you a bit more insight in terms of my background, because I kind of skimmed across it because it's not wholly relevant to this conversation, but now to give you a bit more insight into the future. So this is my passion, FullSpektrum is my passion, and being neurodiverse and being, you could call it elements of ADHD or whatever, where I like to just, oh, this is a great idea, I want to do it. We have to have disciplined thought. Disciplined thought for us is to build a system that's going to be utilized for information management at the local authority and government level, and then bridge it downwards. Once we've built that conundrum in terms of having a platform for education and reform, then we look at social care, and we look at in terms of how to integrate social care and build a platform that integrates that. Then you look at healthcare. Now, as I said, my background is in life sciences. But what I am particularly proficient in is in applied diagnostics. And in my master's degree, I did quite a bit of exciting research where I developed a biosensor, so essentially an electrode that you can use to detect the presence of different biological mechanisms or biological species. And what I did in my research for my master's is essentially design an assay that goes into 20 sensors that's built to detect the presence of MRSA, which is obviously a proficient bacteria that's found in nosocomial conditions, so in hospitals, but also it's found in the community. Now, I managed to get this system to work as sensitive as possible, where we're able to detect the presence of this bacteria in 20 minutes, as opposed to 6 to 8 hours using high powered sequencing equipment. And through that approach, that's when I first realized that, not only can we utilize technologies to understand the specificities of biology, but how we utilize data to start looking at the epidemiology, to look at track in terms of where the species comes from, all those things there. And there's always been a passion of mine to build out a system that looks at, understanding information from key elements of the individual and our environment, and therefore use machine learning as a way to, structure how we move across. I think for me, what I want to do in the future is definitely look at bridging in life sciences again, and look at in terms of how we can use, biometrics and other areas where we can transduce biological chemical presence into a digital presence. And therefore, with that information, you can really start to do some cool stuff to understand, the true capabilities of us as humans. And, who knows, we could basically maybe build a biosensor system that looks at areas of cognition, you know, and give you some real insight in terms of how we can develop things and look at things such as, you know, Alzheimer's and dementia and anything that can that degrades on our cognitive abilities over time. But for me, I always remain someone that looks at, you know, building cool things, designing cool things, fulfilling challenges, but also impacts and leaving legacy. And I always say, I say this to my students, I say this to my son, always intends to, when you meet someone, always intend for them to be in a better position they were before you met them, and always be in a position to leave this earth by leaving something behind. You always have to leave a legacy behind. For me, I wouldn't just say my legacy is FullSpektrum, but everything I can build out of that, where I can make a difference to everyone that's always felt that they've been left behind or fell through the gaps. You know, yeah, that's my future.
Wow, that's a good place to sign off from as well. So you know, that's well, wow, that's expansive as well. So I definitely think, you know, I know I want to follow your journey as well. So I'm actually quite excited about what.
And I
you're
want to be a
planning
part of it. I want us to have more of these conversations. I mean, and we've got other members of our team that are involved in the product development, in the operations, and in the commercial trajectories of the company. And I was grateful and blessed to actually have them to come on board on this journey with me. And I do feel that, you know, these conversations need to be more current and more common.
Yep.
And if I could inspire either a company to come and work with us to build a coalition, or even inspire a young person that may be an entrepreneur, may want to be an entrepreneur, may have fantastic ideas to, you know, make an impact into education, health, or social care, then I hope that that'll be the case. And if they've got something cool, you come and find me, and we'll work together.
Well, it leads me to say a big thank you. You know, thanks, André, for doing this. It's you know, it's been fantastic, really inspirational, and I think people should get a lot out of this. You know, not just from the perspective of your knowledge about the Send area, but also the way you started and the way you built your business, and the way you focused on certain areas. I think is really important as well, as you said, for entrepreneurs coming up. So a big thank you, and yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Nick. That's a pleasure. And let's speak again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.